So having dug through fantasydom on the internet, on YouTube, whatnot, I inevitably came across the hype associated with The Wheel of Time. And people were saying things like, it was my favorite fantasy novel series, it's amazing, blah, blah, blah. And so I naturally became curious. Does the series live up to the hype? Is it good? And seeing as how it is one of the most prominent bodies in fantasy out there, I decided to give it a shot. Total cold turkey, total newbie. Despite everything I heard, I really had no preconceptions or expectations, so kind of going into it naked and blind. And of course, obligatory spoiler warning in case you're watching this video and haven't actually read The Eye of the World. So the overall arc of the plot I found to be good and quite captivating. I was especially quite drawn to the desperate, arduous journey of it all, especially that of Rand and Mat going along the Caemlyn Road. Just the constant paranoia, the sense that someone was constantly hunting you and just behind you, biting at your ankles. Pushing through pain and discomfort, the feeling that anyone you met could stab you in the back or turn you into the bad guys. The absolute trauma of it all, and then ultimately being able to reach the end, it was intense. It was a vibrant, immersive experience of suffering, and I quite enjoyed it. And from a character standpoint, I was quite drawn to the resilience of Rand and Mat, especially Rand, and just the impact that it had on them. You got these two guys, they're just tired, they're hurting, it's driving them insane. And, it was quite good. I enjoyed that. The second thing that I really liked was, the world was kind of cool. I especially liked how we managed to organically see a wide variety of different places. The journey and the plot naturally took us to them rather than forcing us to them just because the author wanted us to see these spectacular sights. And they weren't just cardboard cutouts. I got a sense that they were real and had some depth to them. And now that I've gotten the good stuff out of the way, I can really get into the meat of what I actually thought about this book. Because overall, despite the praises that I just gave it, I didn't actually enjoy reading this book. And it's kind of aggravating the reason why this is, because it was just a single thing, just a single style choice, I guess you could call it that really brought down this book for me. And simply put, it's slow. How slow? It takes the main characters more than 100 pages to leave the two rivers. It takes them more than 100 pages to actually start their journey. In the meantime, they're just kind of milling around their hometown, and the situation isn't really changing that much. The call to adventure was fairly straightforward. Rand and his buddies are being stalked by a shadowy figure, the Trollocs attack, and then Moraine and Lan tell them, oh, you need to come with us because clearly you're of something of interest to this evil force. If you don't come with us, you'll put your town in jeopardy. You'll be captured by the evildoers. Pretty simple, straightforward call to action. It shouldn't have taken 100 pages to go through those 3 simple steps. You don't need 100 pages for this to happen, especially at the very beginning of the book when you are supposed to be trying to hook the reader's attention as soon as possible. And I understand that this beginning section is only like an eighth of an 800-page book, but without a sense of story progression or change, 100 pages is going to start feeling like a slog. And that's what ended up happening for me when I read this. The situation just evolves so slowly. It's like the author took all the pieces of a really good plot, actually, but then spread those pieces really far apart and then stuck it in a pool of molasses and forced the reader to swim through it. It's just, like I said, it was a slog. Just very little was happening at satisfying intervals. And to be clear, I'm not complaining about the length of the book. I don't believe that the length of any story, any novel or movie, inherently detracts from the enjoyment value of it. You can think of page count, word count, or minutes in a movie as the investment that needs to be made on the reader's part. It's the effort that the reader needs to put in. And the author needs to give something in return that is worth that investment. They need to make sure that stuff is happening, that the situation is changing with enough frequency to actually keep the reader interested. And The Eye of the World just didn't do this for me. Either increase the reward you give the reader, or decrease the demand you put on them. And it's simple economics that for me, The Eye of the World just failed at. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. I anticipate that most people who watch this video will have an overall positive attitude towards this book. So I'm just curious, am I the problem? Did I miss something? Is it simply a taste thing? I want to know. I'm quite eager to discuss this because I'm very interested in what people like in a fantasy story, and I consider this type of discussion to be a valuable learning opportunity for myself, for you, anyone who's aspiring to write stuff. I think we should discuss these things. We should be looking at stories that either succeed or that fail and try to learn what we can.